build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Well, they gave me bars, but I can see between to a dusty yard and long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober as
Hello and welcome to Longbangers. This is episode 128. I'm John, joined tonight by Colin. You might recognise that my voice is different from your regular host, Matty, and it's because Matty's got COVID. So we want to send our best wishes to him. Because he's not well, but we hope he's back soon. Colin, how are you?
I'm all right. Half awake, knackered. All this sleeping all day and drinking all night's starting to catch up with me.
You were just saying before we started there, you woke up at lunchtime today. So is that 12 o'clock?
5 to 12. 5 to 12. Aye. Yeah.
What have you been doing since then?
Lying on the couch watching the telly most of the day. Just shite on the telly. Big fat quiz of the year and can't even remember. Like something else. Don't know. Just lying there watching rubbish.
Is this your standard sort of Christmas routine? Like get up at lunchtime, sleeping, lie on the couch, or is this reward because you done Christmas dinner?
Well, a bit of both. These are the days that I always take the holiday, and I always wonder why did I take the holiday? Like do nothing. You know what I mean? Just knock myself out of a routine and like tell what I had for my dinner about an hour ago because I wasn't hungry because I had my lunch that late was fucking cheese and biscuits. So I'm just.
Was it a good bit of cheese though? Was it one of those like flavoured ones? Had a bit of fruit in it or something?
I had a bit of. It was like cheddar and chilli, and there was red Leicester with black pepper, and I had a bit of brie.
Nice. We found this one at Aldi, and I don't know if other shops do it as well, but it's got pineapple through it, and it doesn't sound like I didn't mind pineapple. I absolutely refuse to eat pineapple on pizza. I'm sure we talked about it before. But when the missus said to me, pineapple through the cheese, I thought, I'm not really sure about that. Like, lumpy bit of pineapple or something through it, but it's more like a sort of, I don't know if you'd call it like it's not glaze.
Like glaze. A dried one? Aye.
I don't know how to describe it exactly. You know, if you were to get like a sorbet, it's like, if you were to get like, what am I thinking of? There's an ice cream. A Solero. So you know how that's got like the mango on the outside and it's got like mango kind of like through the ice cream. The cheese is kind of like that, but it's like that. That's what the pineapple's like. But it's quite nice. So we got like 3 or 4 of them in stock up. We were going to have
I like that bit. Got loads of it.
Aye, we were going to have a cheese board on Christmas Eve, but then we ended up going down to the in-laws to help out. So we went down to the in-laws to stay overnight so we could be available first thing in the morning because the mother-in-law had broke her wrist recently. So there was like kind of all hands on pump. Normally she does the Christmas dinner, but we needed folk in to do like the spuds, the sprouts, and the carrots and stuff like that. So I think we got down there about maybe like back at 5, 6 o'clock. And then they ordered an Indian for tea. And after an Indian, like, there's no room for cheese or cheese boards.
No. Not if you're doing it properly.
No. Well, properly for me was it was a helping of curry that was dished up with the father-in-law. And then I think I don't know if he got one or if it was 2 Peshwari naans, but there was loads of it. And I'm just Peshwari naan, anything coconut based is like crack cocaine for me. That and maple syrup, if you were to put the two of them together, Jesus, I might just go into like a sugar coma.
I do like Peshwari, aye. I was just saying earlier, it's a drink rather than food, but the coconut rum I had last night, that was nice as well, so I feel like coconut.
Do you like a wee Malibu?
No, this was, well, I've not had a Malibu for years and I've not had very many of them, but this was like it's like a dark rum, but coconut flavoured.
I don't know. So we were talking about my adopted dad before we started as well, and shout out to him as well because he's just returned a positive lateral flow. He's getting his PCR them on, and I think if I remember correctly, he suggested to me before Malibu and Lilt is a tropical sensation. So if anyone's got that kicking about in the house, give that a go. But we're not here to talk about drink and cheese. Or maybe we are. Like Matty's not here, so we can pretty much do whatever we want.
I think folk quite liked us talking about the good Indian restaurants and I think Raymond, was it Raymond's quote last week at the end? He said the Kebab Mahal's fucking shite. I think that was the goal at the end. I forgot we were recording. We're like, fuck.
Where's the Kebab Mahal? I've heard of that.
It was up. He said the way he explained it was up near St Patrick's Square, up at just past the Festival Theatre.
Ah, right, okay. Oh, is that the place that Matty got his infamous cheesy yogurt kebab?
No, I didn't think it was. No, I can't remember the place though. But he never mentioned that last week, so that would suggest you've obviously not listened to last week's show.
No, I saw we were having a bit of blather between the group chat and about references to Pearl Harbor, and that's obviously where the midget submarine title came from. But no, I meant to listen to it, but it's been a busy week. And I've not been working, so I've not been. I've not really had anything going on in the background. By the way, see, not being at work and being more involved with like Bern and doing stuff, I'm stressed out. I need a fucking holiday. I need to go back to work.
Back to work.
Bye.
So for me,
you went to the Aberdeen game.
I did.
Did you go? Did you go because it was Maloney's first game, or did you go because you're a Hibby? You just go.
I just went because I got a season ticket. So I just went. I know where we sit. It's fairly quiet anyway. And there's nobody in a row. There are season ticket seats because you can't buy them if you try and buy an extra seat. But nobody goes. So I know that the row's empty. We leave at the end. We can get down the stairs quickly and that. So I had no real problems with going. So I just thought, get my value at my season ticket while I can before we get banned again.
Aye, well, here we are, banned, can't go to the football, but it's maybe not such a bad thing. I think I maybe said that to Matty, like, if you're going to get positive tests, if you're going to have to quarantine yourself, like, now might be the best time if you're a Scottish football supporter, because you're only missing one game. And to be fair, like, I wouldn't have gone to Dundee United anyway because of family commitments kind of thing. I would have gone previously, but it's not the worst thing in the world to miss it now.
No, I'm glad they brought the winter break forward. Like, I think they've done the right thing there. Even though it was one game, they never. But I mean, it was an away game, so from your point of view, it doesn't count, I suppose. But bringing the winter break forward was the right thing to do, and hopefully by the time that's finished, we can start getting folk back in again. But then, I mean, you've got to say there is a few folks starting to test positive now, and you wonder if that is if we go into the cup final. Like, I know that they say it's normally quicker than that, but I do know a few folk that seem to have tested positive now. So, the game.
Well, I mean, I've taken lateral flows before and after every day, just with spending time with more family over Christmas.
Yeah.
And I haven't returned a positive test yet, but we'll see how that goes in the coming days. Having spent yesterday when I adopted that. What did you think of the performance against Aberdeen?
I thought it was all right. It was a good win, but I know it was only 5 days ago. It wasn't even a week ago. I'm just looking at the date. I can't think much about it other than we done all right. They weren't great. We were all right. We scored a good goal. Can't remember many other goalies having to make. I think Macy maybe made a save or two. Can't mind Joe Lewis having many saves to make other than the one he didn't make. But I didn't feel threatened by them either. Like, I'm not making it out like they were the better team or anything. I didn't feel like they were going to score, even though we had more saves to make. But it was a good win because you look at the league table. If we hadn't beaten them, they would have been either ahead of us or right in our tail. So.
Well, I think they're still ahead of us, but we've closed the gap. I want to say that we're maybe only 1 point behind them now. But
Aberdeen, talking about they're below us.
Are they below? Who's ahead? Oh no, sorry, Motherwell are ahead of us.
Sorry, Motherwell.
My mistake. What was I going to say? So Aberdeen, the team that visited, we obviously never saw them at Pittodrie, and it was a bit of a shit result for Hibs because they were toiling. So were we. If you were to rate Aberdeen on a scale of 1 to 15, 1 being really, really shit, 15 being really, really good, how would you rate their performance on whatever night it was? Tuesday night? Was it Tuesday? Was it that early or was it Wednesday? No, it was Wednesday.
It was Wednesday night, about 6.
They're a vastly different team. Do you know, I was going to say they're a vastly different team, but I think they are exactly the same team. It's just that they're not getting results anymore. So physically, they all look the same. Like, they're all big guys. There was only one one player that I saw on the pitch who looked any different for the rest of them. So they all looked like 6 foot, broad shoulders, and then there was one guy that was in there that looked a wee bit like similar sort of build to Jamie McCluskey that played for Hibs, like just this wee skinny thing. Like you say, it didn't really bother us.
No, and I mean, I know they're trying to. Well, they got rid of McInnes because they wanted to play better football. Similar reasons to what we've done, and I didn't see it. And I didn't see them playing better football yet. Like, I know I've not seen them much. I don't know if they're doing it in other games, but it didn't look like they were playing any great football, like creating loads of chances or anything like that. So maybe they'd have been better sticking with McInnes because they could have used the big guys to not get beat the other night probably. But we're not going to talk about Aberdeen, eh?
Did you see much different from Hibs compared to the cup final? Did you see anything of Sean Maloney's influence on the team?
On Wednesday, I saw a lot more yesterday, but on Wednesday night, probably just the chasing down at the higher up the pitch. You see them chasing into the goalie and that. You know, I kind of mind it, Nisbet chasing in on a keeper when Jack Ross was the manager. So there was a lot more pressing, or whatever the technical terms for it are, chasing down higher up the park, I would say. But other than that, it was pretty samey. Yesterday was a bigger change, I think. But
I thought it's funny because I thought watching the game against Aberdeen that Hibs were exactly like described there. They pressed a lot more, and I was thinking about it after the game because one of my defences of Jack Ross was that we might not have been getting big performances like the players because the players would have been shattered because of the hectic schedule, because of a backlog of injuries. It was now really an opportunity to refresh people, although I kind of questioned why we weren't playing Trey Wright or Alex Gogic or any of the other players on the bench. But then we had that performance against Aberdeen, and it made me wonder afterwards, like, how do you go for players looking tired? Like, do you think there is a big psychological difference just purely with a new manager coming in where someone goes, I'm going to run more? Because I didn't quite understand how you can look tired and how you can look kind of reserved and kind of knock the ball about in a pedestrian fashion. And then you get a new manager in who's only been there for 2 days who says, actually, I've not really had that opportunity to have much an influence on them. It's all down to them. Mm-hmm. So where do you think that came from?
Well, I think the new manager, they're all playing for your position again, aren't you? And I'm sure it's Mikey Stewart that's spoken about a few times on the radio and that even if you're not saying he's lost the dressing room or anything like that, players subconsciously switch off if you're hearing the same message all the time, or there's no repercussion or consequence doing something. So they don't mean to no play for the manager, but because there's no maybe getting the boot up the arse or dropped, whatever it may be, then you might just not do it because you're in your comfort zone and it's easy. Which is, I think I've definitely said those words over weeks on this. When a new guy comes in, he's probably coming in and they're going, fuck, he played for Celtic in Scotland and that, because they'll all be the age where he's only 38, but they'll know him, and then he's coming in. Even when he spoke to the guy, is it Brian McLaughlin, that does the BBC stuff on Wednesday night after the game, and he says, oh, haha, you'll be getting Christmas Day off after it. And you see him, his answer, he's almost like, what the fuck are you talking about, getting Christmas Day off? That doesn't happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was quite a serious sort of, maybe setting different standards and expectations for the players. And I'm not saying Jack Ross didn't set standards or expectations, but the new standards and expectations. So,
I was talking to one of my mates coming away for the game against Aberdeen, and he was saying that what he'd love to see is, or what he'd love to hear, is kind of like a fly in the wall perspective. Like, what did Maloney actually say to the players when they came in? Because that would have been something he could have had an influence over. Like, just because if he didn't have much in the way of time on the training pitch, maybe there was something in what he said or in what he demanded. And we made it a bit of a joke about it because when Lennon came in, one of his infamous speeches was, "This isn't a democracy; it's a dictatorship." Yeah. And I wonder if Maloney was a bit more gentle. Like, I wonder what his initial thoughts. How did he try and impress himself on the players when he came in? And I wonder if, at some point in the future, if that'll ever come out. What did they say to the senior guys? What did they say to the less experienced players? And was it a case of like you've all got a clean set, like you've all got a part to play, or you've all got an opportunity to impress me?
It will be stuff like that. I mean, you look at, even there was a shot, wasn't there? There was a photo they shared, and they must have had them in smaller groups. And there was one of the groups that shared the photo with was McGregor, Hanlon, Paul McGinn.
Yep.
Can't remember the other two. There was 5 of them in it, and you think they were clearly maybe the senior player group. So he's taking them, and they've got a couple of the photos for that one. But I'm guessing they'll have the young laddies together, saying you'll all get a chance, or even the boys. Then the boys like Jay Wright, Scott Allen, you'll be getting a chance. You've been on the bench, just to motivate, try and get them motivated to play again. Because I think we were the same. Like, what's the point having it? We've only got 13 players in this squad because we're not playing anybody else other than the 11 that start and the 2 subs that come on. Well, nobody else is getting an opportunity, no matter how shite we are against Livingston. Nobody would have got dropped because there was nobody in our eyes that was going to play. But you've got Jamie McGullen, you've got Dre Wright, you've got Scott Allen, plus others that just never got any minutes. He's already gave them at least an hour. Well, no Gullen, he's still at the bit, but you know what I mean. He's gave 60 minutes to Allen and Wright. So I guess he's went round them all in groups that you can maybe box them into. The old heads, the young laddies, the maybe on the way out the door guys. Yeah.
Do you think there'll be? Well, in fact, we'll cover this later. Because I think that's one of the questions that we got in for excuse me, the listeners, about who do you think will stay and maybe go in the transfer market. But other than the goal, I think one of the big talking points in the Aberdeen game was Ryan Porteous testing Christian Ramirez's faith in our Lord and Saviour by what looked like booting him in the balls. What did you make of that?
I never saw it at the time. At the time, actually, we were shouting, moaning at the boy for staying down too long because it just looked like they had banged into each other. But what Sports Scene, when I came in, and Sports Scene had it in the highlights right away, so it was obvious. Pretty fucking silly, really, when he knows the spotlight's on him for these reasons. We've all tried to defend him about his tackle at Ibrox. We've all tried to defend him, saying this is how many bookings he's had, this is how many red cards he's had in the past, and he's starting to clock them up. And I know we all want to defend him, and you can see it on the message boards, and the boy grassed him and all that stuff. McManus was on about it yesterday on the telly and that as well. And you're like, he's fucking done it. Like, he can't. There's a bit of personal responsibility at some point. He fucking done it. He kicked the boy in the balls right in front of the referee. It's just silly, and I mean, it's frustrating for me because he's got the potential to be a good player, but there's just too much about him that draws back for that. And he likes I think he likes creating gifs, or he wants to be a meme or something. You know what I mean? Because he does the smile after it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's like he kens the cameras on him. I don't like it. I think he needs to chop out his game, and he needs mentored. And I think McGregor was always touted as his mentor, but maybe McGregor's not the right guy because, well, when he was a 22-year-old, is how old he is now, Porteous. McGregor still wasn't a full-time player. Maybe he needs somebody else like to mentor him, to teach him. He's 22-year-old. He's not a boy anymore. He's a man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wonder as well if one of the examples that I saw recently in connection with Porteous was McGregor when he basically battered the boy that played for Tripolis. I think he'd come on, and I think it was a bit an old-fashioned, all right, okay, so you're going to try and kick a few more creative players, so I'm going to sort you out kind of thing. And McGregor did it in a very clever way. He did it in a very Darren McGregor way, because what I mean by that is Darren McGregor sometimes in the challenge can be a little bit clumsy. Well, I think you saw it actually when he got sent off against Rijeka, where he's kind of, he's been turned by the boy and he's tried to kind of grapple and get back in front of him, and that's what's ended up getting him the second booking. But from that perspective, I wonder if McGregor's the wrong guy, because Porteous is a more able defender than McGregor. And I didn't mean this disrespectfully, but I don't think he needs to be getting involved in those kind of shenanigans. Like, he'd already fouled the ball, he'd already brought him down. Why do you then need to go and beat him in the ball? It's like, I had the impression during that game that Porteous, the Hibs defence, more than had a grasp of Ramirez and whatever it is that he's got to offer Aberdeen, and that was the first time I'd seen him in the flesh. You'd already fouled him, you'd already put him on the deck. Why do you then have to then go and rub salt in the wounds by booting him in the balls?
I didn't even
or try to be clever.
The two of them just went, was it not a heater, and he cleared it up the park, and then when they landed, he lashed out, and it's not even like the guys. Well, it certainly wasn't obvious if the guys had a go at him and it was retaliation. He's just like kicked the boy, and what are you doing? Like, there's cameras everywhere. Like,
it is. I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, where I think sometimes he gets drawn into battles like that, and it becomes a wee bit too personal, and it's maybe a wee bit more emotion overriding what he should be doing.
Yeah.
Like I want, I think maybe what I'm trying to say is that Pochis in instances like that, he's trying to make a statement. He's trying to say, like, you're never going to get the better of me. And do you know what? That might work for some people, but I think with a number of times, rightly or wrongly, that whether it's sort of rightly or wrongly, he's been, he's made the challenge or whatever, won the ball, and he's been harshly treated or wrongly, like the Ramirez incident. These things are racking up, and Hibs at the moment, at least going into the transfer window, can't afford to be losing players.
No, I get
that would be a really good bit of mentoring for him. Like, think about the bigger picture. Think about what you're doing. Just think a wee bit more.
Yeah, well, Caldwell's there now. He played the same position as him. He got the big move, so, and he kind of. I mean, I'm sure he done daft things, but I get the impression for Pochis that he's the kind of boy that tells you he's a hard man and tells you he's got to break your legs, rather than the real hard man that just fucking breaks your legs. You know what I mean? The real hard man's the guy that doesn't tell you he's got to do it, just fucking does it.
Yeah.
I think Pochis is still at the stage of telling everybody he's a hard man. You know what I mean? And he needs to knock it out of his game, because the refs are on him up here, and we can moan about conspiracies against him and all that, but if he doesn't kick the boy in the balls, he doesn't get too much ban.
Yeah. Is he definitely got a ban, or is it just he's away for the SFA meeting?
I don't know. I assumed, well, see if it goes to an SFA meeting, he's got to get a ban, eh? You know what I mean? I'd be very surprised if he got off with it.
Aye, I can't remember the terminology. I think is it notice a complaint or something?
Oh, when they invite you for you for 2 matches or whatever it is. I don't know. I've not read much about it with it being Christmas and that, to be honest. But I'm just assuming he'll get a ban because I've seen it with my own eyes.
What are your thoughts on some of the suggestions that it's trial by media? So Ramirez has gone on Twitter and posted footage of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Sports Scene seen it anyway. Sports Scene showed it in the highlights before Ramirez started sharing it. So I don't think it is trial by media. Well, it is trial by media purely because the referee never saw it. So it goes to the cameras. I mean, is it, if it's VAR, is that trial by media? Or is that just VAR? Because that's what it is, isn't it? It's just VAR after the game. After
just
the fact.
Instant trial by media, isn't it?
Aye. So, it's trial by media, but he kicked the boy in the balls. So we would want him banned, if it was against us. Plenty of them.
Well,
when Pochis got done to him, and it was the other way around, it was Morelos that done it to him. Then he went and scored the winner in the game. We're still moaning about that. So if you're an Aberdeen fan, you moan about it, because he done it, got away with it, and went and scored the winner. So.
Aye. Villain of the piece and hero of the piece.
Cracking
the winner goal.
After shite corners for months, we scored 2 and 2 at that point, because the cup final goal as well. But it was a really good corner. It was a cracking header. Where we sit, we were right behind it, and it was just like a huge, big open part of the goal. You could see it coming a mile off.
Yeah.
He just took it really well. He just let the ball bounce off him, didn't he? Didn't have to put any real pace on it. The pace was on the ball already. So cracking header.
I don't know how difficult it is to execute that delivery that Martin Boyle done, but it was very, very deliberate. And most of the corners that you see Hibs are floaters or in-swingers. I must admit, like I prefer, it's a wee bit of football and pet peeve of mine. I always think that the advantage to the attacking team would come from an out-swinging corner and with a delivery like Martin Boyle's, and especially I think Hibs have been caught out with that a couple of times with like zonal marking, where if you're just kind of standing static waiting for someone to come into your area, the guy with the momentum is the guy that has the advantage. And in the game against Aberdeen, Hibs managed to use that to their benefit. So hopefully that's something that's been a change for Maloney coming in. Just looking at wee things.
Just the big centre half coming up and crashing one at the top corner. One of my favourite type of goals, like just they ones. Boy coming clean, everybody out.
Aye, or even like the defender striding forward and just unleashing a 40-yard miracle net buster. Like they're so rare that they're just so beautiful to see.
Yeah.
So Maloney's first game in charge, 1-0, 3 points on the board, and then we faced Dundee United at Tanadice. When I looked at the lineup, and I think I'd read on Hibs tweet that there was 2 changes to the Hibs team, and one of them I think was Dre Wright coming in, and I kind of looked at that with a wee raised eyebrow and thought, all right, okay, here we go. And the other one was that Josh Doig and Lewis Stevenson both started, and it genuinely wasn't until about just before half time that I thought, where's Paul McGinn? I've not heard his name. It's because I don't know if he was injured or no selected or whatever, but he wasn't playing. But there was a few changes amongst the Hibs lineup, like in terms of formation, in terms of personnel. What do you think prompted that for Maloney?
Well, I guess I don't know why McGinn was out, so I don't know. But when I got the team, when I seen the team, I thought, how are we playing? Stevenson playing centre half, or is Doig playing centre half? That was how I was looking at it. But I quite liked the formation, and probably no too different to formation we've set out the season already. Still one up front, which doesn't work. Blah blah blah. We've all heard. Did yesterday. But what was different is that the 3 defenders were really spread over the park. They weren't tight in the middle, which then meant that the 2 wide guys were further forward and more midfielders than they were defenders or wing backs. They were. I suppose you'd probably class them as wing backs, but they looked like they were in midfield, really.
Yeah.
Cadden and Doig. So I thought it worked really well. The defence they were really spread out. I mean, the 2 wide ones was Porteous on the right and Stevenson on the left. Stevenson was almost playing his normal position.
Yeah.
Even though he was left centre half. And Hanlon in the middle, I think. But so they were really spread out, and I think that then, as I say, created all the more space further forward. But again, it was all the chasing down and all that was a real difference in the possession stats, and all that were. Was it 65% possession in that over the whole 90 minutes?
65, 66, aye.
So it's quite dominant. Although, it's funny, I was just reading earlier on, just when I was waiting on you coming on, something like 19 shots on goal yesterday we had. I can't remember that many shots, but
we've gone through a bit of
that's official stuff.
We've gone through a bit of a dry spell in front of goal. You said that you never saw much in the way of changes in the Aberdeen game, but you saw more against Dundee United. And you mentioned possession there. What other changes did you see? And obviously, like the way that the 3 centre halves were playing. 2 of them were playing as pretty much wing backs.
Aye, which meant that Cadden and Doig were getting further forward than they have in the past, because they started further forward rather than, they were more attacking wing back than defensive wing back. Nisbet seemed more involved in the game. Again, the chasing and pressing and all that was better again. They looked a lot more comfortable on the ball. Macy was rolling it out a lot quicker than he has in the past, and the defenders were coming and taking it off him. I think they tried that in the Aberdeen game once or twice, and all they ended up doing was putting the goalie under pressure. But yesterday seemed to work better when they were coming and taking the ball in their own 18-yard box off him.
That's an interesting observation as well about comfort on the ball and taking it in tight spaces, because I actually thought that was one of the big differences in the game against Celtic. And when we're talking about like Nisbet and comparing strikers, so you got the boy Furuhashi playing for Celtic. I think Celtic had signed him for 5 million, and I think some figures have suggested that we got Nisbet for 500,000. But so you've got arguably 10 times the player there. But actually, one of the things that I was really impressed about with Celtic was their ability to take the ball in tight spaces and still manage to move it and find a Celtic player. And for all our efforts in the first half in being defensive, we weren't able to replicate what Celtic were doing. That was how they were able to basically dismantle us, get beyond us. And that was another sort of curious observation as well about what the Hibs players were doing when Jack Ross was involved and what Hibs players are doing now. And is that what the manager was telling them to do, or is that what the players are now trying to do because there's a new manager and they're perhaps playing for their futures? Yeah.
I think there was one point yesterday, and McManus called it out on the commentary as well. But Doyle Hayes has got a real tendency to kick the ball the way he's facing, which is generally receiving it to the defence and just getting it straight back to the defence, which everybody gets pissed off about and all that because he's not going forward enough. But at one point he'd done that. I think it was this first half. I was thinking we were shooting, and Porteous gave him a absolute bollocking for not putting the ball forward. And McManus called it in the telly at the time. So I think it's something they're saying. Stop, fuck it. Look, can you go forward? If you can't go forward, then go back rather than the natural instinct to go back. You see his pass for the second goal. He's definitely facing forward at that point.
Yeah.
But other ones, he does. You can still see him. He's got his back to the midfield, back to the way we're attacking, and he just drills it straight back to the defender that's giving the ball, and he almost runs towards him again. And you go, stop it!
It's funny because
you just fucking pass the ball that way.
I don't know whether he's maybe suffered along with like the Hibs team for that poor run of form, but if you remember his first game, well, he helped change the game against Motherwell when he replaced Gogic. And then there was a really good performance for Hibs when we beat Ross County. I want to say, was it 3-0, 3-1? Like, where we absolutely demolished them in the first half hour. Yeah. And one of the things that was really impressive about Doyle Hayes then was he never seemed to stop moving. He always seemed to be in space. He was always available for a pass. But it was never constant passes backwards. And I wonder if maybe he just needed to find a little bit of confidence again to start moving the ball around a bit more. But it's funny because I was looking at him on, I think it was the Dundee United game, and I thought he was a wee bit of a passenger. Like, I don't know, it might just been having watching the game on TV, and it wasn't that his name wasn't getting mentioned or anything, but he's one of the players that I think throughout the last few months I've thought, you're struggling, have we made a mistake? But then we've also given him an increased contract. Yeah. So I think for me, I want to see him stay, and I want him to get that confidence back, and maybe that confidence comes from 3 wins in 3.
Mm-hmm. Aye, and creating passes and goals like the one he did yesterday, he's got to give him confidence. He's still not got the confidence to shoot. He just doesn't. He doesn't even contemplate getting a shot away.
Do you remember the game against Celtic, Easter Road, where I think they were like 3-0 up in the first 20 minutes or so, and it looked like we were going to get absolutely battered. I think it was that game where he went to go and play a cross into the box, and I'm sure he was maybe like around about the edge of the box, like right on the sort of the right angle of it on the right hand side, and he played this wee crossing, and I don't even think that it hit the penalty spot. Mm-hmm. It was really, really stinking. But he was also on the Downslope podcast. I think he was getting asked about who's got the hardest shot at Easter Road or who's got the softest one. I think he included himself among the softest. But I don't think that he had a dig yesterday, but certainly there were a few cracks at goal from distance yesterday that was quite refreshing to see. I remember one from, I think it was Dre Wright in particular, like the Forgotten Man. And he's had a dig. What did you make of his performance and his inclusion in the first place?
I was going to say I was surprised to see him in the team, but that's probably just because he's not played since he's been here, really. When a new manager comes in, he's got to try everybody out, and he's got to give everybody a chance. He done all right. He was okay.
Aye.
I agreed with Tam on that one. Didn't agree with much the stuff he was saying on the telly yesterday, like with some of his shite about offsides and that. But I thought when he came off after the hour, I thought, he was all right. You know what I mean? I don't think he was brilliant. I think he was outstanding, but I think he was shite or bad at all. He was decent. He was good. Don't think he was any worse than the laddie Campbell. Probably done a similar job yesterday because they both done a lot of running about and chasing and harrying. But I suppose if we're wanting to be the Flair team again, or a Flair team, what's the word again? The Flair team, we probably wouldn't want two players that are just there to chase and harry in that position, would we? We would want boys that are more creative, because I don't think they created much, the two of them yesterday. But they do a lot of chasing and do a lot of hard work, so they are bringing to the team, but they're just I don't think they're. They never look like they're. I'll say ever. Jay Wright, what we've seen, I've seen about 90 minutes of the boys in 18 months, but it doesn't look like if you take Campbell, it doesn't look like he's got to score many goals. You know what I mean? You put a cracking ball in for a goal a few weeks ago, but it's not like he's creating a lot. But he is a hard worker. So it's a Flair team stuff we want, isn't it? That's what Kensal wants. That's what Maloney wants. So I don't know if they'll be there for that role because they're just runners. He's just runners then.
It's funny because we're talking about runners, but we're also talking about Hibs pressing in the last couple of games. And for me, that's been the biggest difference. The amount, what I'm seeing for Hibs is a lot of pressing, a lot of putting the opposition under pressure, like not giving them much of an opportunity to settle, to sort of get back into formation or whatever. And it's forcing the opposition into errors, like putting the ball out of play, putting passes, putting the opposition under pressure, so they're maybe mishitting a pass, underhitting it, overhitting it, whatever. But we're kind of critiquing runners at the same time. Like, it's quite hard to get that combination. Like the guy who's got the ability to, I don't know, play the defence split and pass, and maybe he's fucking 30-year-old overweight. Maybe he's a Paul Kearney type, for example.
Yeah.
But at the moment, like, we seem to be doing that. The other thing that I think that Hibs are doing really well at the moment, and it's a wee bit dark arts, which I think Longbangers is on record as saying that we're not a fan of it, and it's niggly wee fouls without them being fouls. Like, there's a lot of like jersey tugging, like kind of trying to get in front of the opposition, like just like maybe like pulling at an arm a wee bit. And it might just be that we're getting fortunate at the moment that players aren't going down. But again, like, that's something else that seems to be putting the opposition under pressure. And I thought the way that we did that against Dundee United was exactly what they did to us when they beat us 3-0. Because I don't think that they had much other than effort and desire to go and win the ball. And then they had guys who were able to go and put the ball in the back of the net for them. So I didn't really have much complaint about the likes of Josh Campbell or Dre Wright or any of the others in the Hibs team doing that, like closing down a man, because at the moment it's effective.
I like Campbell. Like, he puts he's not scared to leave a leg in that either. You know what I mean? He's quite physical. He's not a young lad. He's 21. He's been about for a while, but obviously went down to the lower leagues and learned that kind of side of the game, and he does it quite well. I just think that they're on record as the ambitions to be attractive, free flowing, or whatever the words were used. And I think that's what Josh Campbell is. But I like him. He leaves a leg in. He puts the work in. But you do need boys like that, I guess. There's maybe other positions in you need to bring in the flair. So
one of the questions that my mate and I were kind of tossing back and forth was, what's Josh Campbell's position? What do you think it is?
I don't know, because he played deeper against Aberdeen, didn't he? Yesterday was a bit more further forward, maybe.
So I think against Aberdeen, if I remember rightly, played maybe a little bit deeper because we were missing.
Because Alan played.
Joe Newell, and Alan played more his traditional number 10, if you like. Mm-hmm. I'm not entirely sure where he played against Dundee United.
Well, I think it was more like a, I don't know actually, because I don't know. I can get any details. It's no, don't know. No idea. I did watch the game though, promise.
Well, the reason, So the reason that we were talking about it, and the reason that we were kind of like debating it back and forth, was my mate had said to me, like, what do you think Campbell's best position is? And if you're not entirely sure, if it's not immediately apparent, then is that to his detriment? Like, could he find himself as being a bit of a utility player? But then we were also talking about Martin Boyle, and we're talking about what's his best position. And I reckon you'd be hard pushed to say that he's really effective there, or he's more effective there than anybody else, because I think he's a really competent winger, but also think he's gotten much, much better up front. But you would never say that he was a natural striker. And sometimes when he's playing on the wing, you kind of want him to be playing up front. It's quite a hard one. Mm. But I think what arguably the two of them have got in common is desire. They just want to run, and they want to play, and I think they want to play for the jersey. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but that's what I've seen from Martin Boyle. And I think Hibs are really lucky to have Martin Boyle in terms of any player that comes in would look at him and go, he went from part-time footballer at Montrose, went to Hibs, or found himself at Hibs, whether by accident or design, and he's now an international footballer. And his game's improved. Everything about Martin Boyle has improved since he's come to Hibs, and that's got to be a good thing for anyone at Hibs. In fact, if you're looking for mentors at Hibs, Martin Boyle has to be in, the top category, if you like, because I think
just for how he's progressed. I agree with you.
how he's
I think-
progressed. Like I think he's had these contract extensions. There was transfer speculation, and he's obviously enjoying his football at Hibs. And Hibs have benefited from Martin Boyle being at Hibs, and Martin Boyle's benefited from being at Hibs.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. I think his best position's out wide. Like, of course, I think he's better out in the right. Although that position yesterday was kind of, I don't know, is it inside right, the old position? You know, because Cadden was outside him a lot,
Yeah.
but he was still kind of out to the right and could overlap with him in that. The laddie Campbell, he might be. You might find that Newell, and when Newell's back, is he injured, suspended or something? I don't know where he's been, but
I think I'd heard that he picked up a knock.
because it might only be him or Doyle Hayes that plays rather than both of them, because they're quite similar players. And it may be Campbell goes in with one of them to get a bit of dig, because that's what he's got about him: hard work and effort and dig. So maybe he'll be in the midfield and the centre with one of those two rather than both of those two.
I'll not spoil it, but there is a question about Joe Newell for one of our listeners. You mentioned offsides being discussed on Sportscene. What's your understanding of the offside rule?
Well, so it was one in the first half that they got a free kick in our half, and it was because Boyle, it was offside, played the ball forward, they ran into our half and picked the ball up, and McManus going, "Well, it can't be offside because it's in our half." And I thought, well, no, you can be. He was offside when the ball was played. Then they give the free kick, I think, where he kicks the ball.
Yeah.
McManus isn't offside. Then he was saying our goal was definitely onside. Like, what are they even talking about? But you look at it and you go, my first view is, well, he's offside because he's behind the keeper and there's only one on the line. Although I've seen replays in that since, and you could say, well, was his leg in line with him? I don't know. But the rest of his body was ahead of it, so does that not make him offside? But Nisbet, sorry, no Boyle. But he was like, nah, that's never offside. Never offside. And I thought, it's not as conclusive as that, like, to be saying it's definitely not offside, because it's clearly dubious when you look at it. Although I did see by the end of the game, he'd obviously been on Twitter or whatever and was saying, aye, it's maybe offside there, because he's obviously been sent the rules or something on Twitter. But I'm not sure if it was offside or not, the first goal. I was convinced yesterday it was offside when I first saw it on TV with my own eyes. And then when you start getting the screenshots and all that sent to you, you think, oh, is he offside?
Aye. I thought at the time that maybe the way that So initially I thought that it was offside. Then watching it again, I thought maybe the linesman has put him, maybe the linesman's seen it as Nisbet's in line with the goalkeeper. And then I was trying to have a look at the rules, and it seemed to suggest, or something on Twitter seemed to suggest that the goalkeeper doesn't count in that situation. So he was offside. And
there's two players that's got to be there if the goalie doesn't count. Now there's only one player.
Aye. So it seems like it was offside, and we've got lucky.
Well, Matthew sent me a screenshot last night, and he was saying that's when it's onside, and I'm looking at it going, but if only one leg is in line with the keeper and the rest of his body's ahead of him, does that not make him offside?
So, I think this is probably one of the examples where it would be beneficial if one of the officials was to come out afterwards and explain why it was onside, why he saw it as onside.
Yeah.
Even if he was wrong, this is how I saw it at the time. I wouldn't have any complaints with that. I'd far rather that than VAR interrupting like the natural flow of the game. Don't get me wrong, like I know that there's a lot of dodgy decisions that I'd be seething at afterwards because the linesman came out something that was blatantly offside and he'd given his own and he'd explained it one way, but that's just my thoughts on it. But that put us 1-0 up. Do you think it was deserved at that point?
Aye, it was, and it was one of those. I was looking at it going, oh, here we fucking go again. We're miles on top, just like what it was before the management changed. Miles on top, and we're not getting the goal. And then what happens next is the other team score, and then that's a shoot the game. But yesterday we got the goal, whether it was onside or not, and that gave me a bit of relief because I thought we're miles better than them. Like I know they were missing a load of players and that with COVID and stuff, but and injuries and that, but we just looked miles better than them. And I thought, but we needed to go because the longer it goes, I'm sure the players will start going, oh, here we fucking go, like we did at Ross County, like we did at Livingston for that 10 minutes. You know, like all the recent games. So, aye, we definitely deserved it. Definitely deserved to lead at half time. In my opinion, like.
Fuck, were we ahead at half time? I'd completely forgot.
Aye, that was just before. I was about 30 odd minutes we scored, was it not? But aye, we were 1-0 at half time.
Second goal.
BBC Sport while we talk. No, it was half time, definitely.
Second goal. That was pretty good. That was probably an example of flair football, of being attractive, fast flowing. What'd you make it?
It was a really good pass for Doyle Hayes to Boyle. Was it Boyle? And then Cadden stroked it away nice. It was good. What was good about it is like two boys scored. We didn't score at the last one yet. But I've moaned for probably as long as I've been doing this about us not scoring, other players scoring goals. Like it's always, we're all overly reliant on Boyle, Nisbet and Doidge to score all the goals last season. Nobody else really chipped in. They all got one, maybe two each. But like Cadden scoring his first goal, Murphy scoring again. It's good to see other bodies scoring goals rather than the usual suspects, because when the guys stop scoring like they have, then you go and shite runs like we did because nobody else scores. So if we can add a few boys in that can chip in, and I think Cadden being further forward, he'll get more opportunities. Hit the bar this season as well, isn't he? He's getting further forward. He's definitely getting closer. So hopefully he can get. If they'll get 5 goals each or something, that makes such a difference. Takes the bait off the guys up front, but either makes us go and win games convincingly or gets us narrow wins when we're winning a closer game. So I think that's a huge thing that we need to add to our game, is have, and that's kind of where I'm going with Campbell and Wright. Like boys that are going to score goals and create goals. That's what we need more of in the attacking positions, because we're overly reliant on, I say Nisbet, Doidge and Boyle, but Doidge isn't getting any minutes. So it's Nisbet and Boyle we're relying on, isn't it?
I'll come back to Doidge if I can remember later on, because I've got a wee bit of a potentially controversial opinion. But you were mentioning there about players scoring goals, and you were talking about Dre Wright and Campbell, but I think it's equally important the number of different players that are involved in creating the goals as well. So as well as scoring, I'm looking for guys like Dre Wright, Josh Campbell, in fact everyone across the pitch to be involved in feeding someone who's going to score. And I think that's why I was really quite impressed, probably wrong word, really pleased to see that through ball for Doyle Hayes. Like, it didn't matter that it wasn't I think they call it a second assist, but just to get that ball through that gap into Boyle, like get it to the players that can do the dangerous stuff, that can really make the difference, especially in the box. And I think Boyle in the box with the ball at his feet, it was probably uncharacteristic for him to lay it off. Like, you were probably more expecting that he was going to turn and have a dig himself.
Yeah.
So it's quite unselfish for him, actually. And I think that's something that's been levelled at him.
I think
recently
Cadden had to tell him to get out of the way, like, because it did look like he was going to try and swing a leg back round at it. Cadden just took it away from him.
Aye, it was a good finish as well.
Good finish.
And the third goal, was that quite late in the game?
Last kick of the game.
Pretty late then.
It was just before. I think we went down, and it was one of those, like, where it was 90 odd minutes and Murphy didn't go into the corner and he put a ball. It was Murphy put a cracking ball across the box, and you're thinking, didn't let them go and score to get back to 2-2 now. After you didn't hang about in the corner with it, like Celtic were doing it to us last week for 85 minutes onwards. So we're in the 90 odd minutes and still trying to score another goal, which is what we all want, isn't it? But then when he did get the chance, he got a wee 1-2 with the defender, which was quite fortunate. He was trying to play it off the Hibs player, like, clearly, but the defender nipped in front of whoever it was, and then he just put it in the bottom corner. Goalie should have probably saved it, really, but it was good that he got on the score sheet. And then that was it, full time after that, straight after it.
It's funny because I think I was having a laugh with someone about playing into the corner, because it's something I absolutely detest, because it's just
so negative.
It's just stinking, isn't it? And I don't know, maybe I wouldn't even say that that's something Hibs fans need to agree upon, because there's definitely a time and a place for putting into the corner and just seeing it out. And I think Jamie Murphy's first opportunity that he described was probably one of those that he should have put into the corner. Yeah. So it's so strange that afterwards he finds himself bearing down on goal, because it felt like
oddly the corner there as well, though, and he decided not to. So he was obviously something, no fucking go to the corner. Presumably he's trying to impress, isn't he? So he's thinking, well, let me get a good ball across the box, or let me go and score a goal. So he's trying to, because the new manager's there. I wonder if Jack Ross was still there, he might have ran to the corner, but
So that's probably a question then to kick it off is Jamie Murphy one of the Hibs squad that needs to impress the new manager?
They all need to impress the new manager. They all need to do it.
So do you think then that no player is safe in terms of transfer window movement in or out?
I don't think. I think boys like Stevenson and that he'll be safe because he's just a dependable guy that he does what he does. He goes along. He can step in at any time, keeps himself fit. So boys like that, you need them around the club anyway. But I don't think, and there's a few on long-term contracts as well, aren't there? They're probably relatively safe from that point of view. But maybe not to start games. I think everybody should be on their toes with this, with the new manager coming in, when we're trying to change the style of play and try and be more creative and all of that stuff. He's going to have to change formations or players to achieve that. So everybody should be on their toes here. There'll be some that he'll have known, I'm sure, because he's done sports scene and that for a while, didn't he? So he's seen games on the telly. And he'll know boys that are, and he'll have heard when he came in, David Gray will be telling him he's not been playing well, he's been playing shite, he's no good at that, and that kind of stuff. So there'll be guys that are on the watch list, if you like, and guys that are probably maybe already, he's definitely got to get ready. But I would expect most of them, if not all of them, to be on their toes here. They should be out of their comfort zone. And a new manager, you've got to go and press again. Not got anybody with reputation, have we? At your club, it's not like you're going like who's there that you could go. Maybe you've got Nisbet, Scotland International, and all that, but then you might sell him because he wants money, and he go and get two boys that would do the job. So I don't think there's anybody there that you could say.
I know what you're saying about reputation. I was going to say that I'd rather be in a position at Hibs, and I think when you see how Jack Ross ended his time at Hibs, especially, so it was only 4 or 5 months after he'd signed a contract extension. I'm curious to see how much those contract extensions hold weight when it comes to the transfer window with a new manager. So I'm thinking about guys like you described, Lewis Stevenson, Jake Doyle-Hayes. How meaningful are these extended contracts with a new manager there?
Aye, well, it would just cost us money to get rid of, wouldn't it? If you were to get rid of,
unless there was to be an offer coming for them, obviously.
Aye, but I think I don't think they would. I don't. By the looks of it, it's a bit more ruthless than we used to be. We would just pay the money to get rid of you then if we don't want you. I would expect that level of support. If the manager says I don't want those 5, even if they have signed a deal, because you're not buying them the whole contract, would you? You would just need to buy them out enough for them to go and find another team.
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't expect anybody. Nobody should be safe, sitting there safe, thinking that's no worries.
So I think that's probably a good time to get on to listener questions, and I'm desperately scrolling through my bookmarks here. I didn't normally do the bookmarks. I've had to learn this in Matty's absence.
Right.
But there was definitely a question about Joe Newell, and it comes from EH6HFC. He says, "Are we a better team without Joe Newell in it?"
I don't know. It would be interesting to see him in the new formation, because I think it's him or Doyle-Hayes rather than both of them in the team. It's one or the other, and I think Joe Newell is probably better than Doyle-Hayes at the moment as a football player. But they're very much. There's probably not much between them. But I wouldn't play both of them together in the midfield because I think that's what created a lot of Jack Ross's problems.
Do you think this is maybe an odd comparison, but bear me out with what I'm trying to describe? But it's Joe Newell and Doyle-Hayes playing together, playing as deep as they do with the sort of sideways backwards passes that they do. Is that as close to playing Bartley and Fivey together against Aberdeen a few years back as we've ever had? In terms of, it just doesn't work? What are you doing?
Aye, maybe, but Bartley 5 he gave you a bit more dig as well, didn't they? than they two. It always feels like it, if they do give a lot of bookings and fouls away, but it's usually for niggly, stupid fucking fouls rather than a Bartley or 5 tackle. But aye, it's probably a decent comparison there. I don't know. I just think the two of them in midfield it slows everything down, and you could get one of them. And when Newell's good, Newell's been excellent when he's been good. The problem I've had with Newell in the past is when he's good, he's good. But he's not good often enough, as I think I've described it. Because there's been games that I've watched that I thought he's fucking outstanding, like Livingston away last season. But then because you can name them, the games, that's shows how frequent it is as well. You're watching the game going, this boy's fucking totally strolling the game, controlling it. But then it's not every week. But then Doyle Hayes I've never really seen do that in any game yet. So
I wonder if the sort of differentiating factor between the two of them, because I think what we're saying is here that they're both really quite similar in terms of their style of play for Hibs of late. And we've both mentioned a couple of games where both Newell and Doyle Hayes have been equally outstanding. One thing that I think that Newell has got over Doyle Hayes is just quick, close control. So I'm thinking about games like against Rangers at Hampden when we beat them 3-1. Just his ability to take the ball on the chest and drop it at his foot and play a pass away, I think is probably. I can't think of anyone at Easter Road that does it better. I think
this is like a really shite thing to be talking about, but what he's good at is coming and taking a throw in of somebody. Can you know how often do you sit and moan about a throw in?
So
he's always willing to go and take the ball for a throw in, which gets him play moving again. He's willing to take it in a tight place and move it on. Whereas when he's not playing, you see that you're going.
No one wants to go and collect a throw in, do they?
No.
So the differentiating factor between the two might be who's willing to play the forward probing passes, who's wanting to try and make play happen. And I think probably for a while now, the two of them have been kind of stuck too deep. And that might be because of team selection by the manager at the time. But I think what we're seeing now is that things are going to change in that respect. So it'll be interesting to see how it works going forward, because I know that the guys on down the slope, they pointed out something really good about Joe Newell, that when he gets beyond the midfield, when he's running at defenders, like he's really, really good, which makes it all the more frustrating when you see him sat back so often.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely a skillful, creative player.
So maybe if he's got Josh Campbell in there with him to hold and do a bit of dig, then he'll get more opportunity to do that. Provide those passes that Doyle Hayes done yesterday.
Do you know, it maybe sounds a wee bit old-fashioned, but someone to do the running for him.
I don't know. To answer the question, I don't know, because we've not seen it yet in the formation, have we? We've not seen it. What we would need to say is we would need to compare and say, well, Doyle Hayes isn't playing now, and Newell is. Are we a better team? Did we look any better? And even then, it's still hard to compare, because it might be the Celtic game that you see it in, and you go, well, is it fair to compare a Celtic game against a Dundee United game? So it's hard to say. Innit?
Hey, where are we next? So, Dre Wright. So Charlie Banks, strong opinion Hibs, he says, Dre Wright had his best game in a Hibs shirt against United. Is this a sign of things to come?
Well, who knows? He might be away in January, I guess. He might not get another game. Might be away before we actually get back. He did have a good game. Just good though, you know what I mean? It wasn't like he was, but is it his best game? I can't remember any other games. He scored them one against Rangers, didn't he?
He scored against Rangers. I remember a game at Easter Road where he's put a ball on Doidge's head for Doidge to score. I don't think that he's as bad as people make out.
He's hardly played, eh? I mean, it's hard to, he played a bit at the start maybe last season, and then he's barely played 90 minutes in 9 months. So it's hard to write the boy off, but it's hard to say he's got to be a mainstay and change the way we play, isn't it, as well, eh? So
do you think as a support we could just get better at supporting the guys that are maybe no first teamers?
Well, support, it's an interesting concept. It would be nice to try and not write boys off. It's like when you hear it when Dre Wrights came on for 10 minutes, you can hear there's like, oh, fuck's sake, goes round, and you think, boy, give the boy a chance. Like, you're here to support the team. Like, you might think he's not up to it, based on the 100 minutes you've seen him since he joined. But just support him now, and then we can judge, But I think so. I think we could be better at no writing boys off early doors.
Do you think it's possible that Dre Wright is a St Johnstone spy in the Hibs dressing room?
And that's how we started beating them, like. They might take him back. Be a good championship player next season.
Well, what happened to them? Double cup winners, lost a couple of players, and I think looking at their form guide, they've lost the last 5, but haven't had a win in something like 7.
Aye. And Davidson's still got a job, but it was more. They lost their centre half, didn't they? Their defence looks hopeless. I mean, that McCart and Gordon and that. I watched the game yesterday, before our game. Like, McCart was just a panic buy because we couldn't get. What's the boy who went to Wigan and's hardly played? The Hibs fan. Jason Kerr.
Yeah.
So him, never got him. Oh, who plays beside him? Try and sign him. But this boy, I mean, he got sent off against us. I've seen him basically like passing it back. Like, he's been horrendous. Some of the decisions he's made this season. So might be a good one we've missed out on there. And the laddie in midfield, they're missing. Other than that, it's the same team. They're just shite. But they were shite last year. They just didn't let goals in.
I think they've lost Witherspoon as well to a cruciate injury, and I want to say that he was their player of the year last year.
He wasn't playing yesterday, so it could be the case he's been playing against us.
So that's 3 influential players that St Johnstone have lost that have impacted massively on the team. I wonder if there's another team out there that have been impacted by injuries.
Aye, it doesn't count. You can't count it. It doesn't matter.
So here's a good question. So Dave Graham, who I got to meet on the bus going through to the cup final, but I never got the opportunity to introduce myself to properly. So sorry about that, Dave. But you're making up for it by asking 3 questions that you want us to discuss and turning this into the less long bangers and more Dave Graham bangers. So his first question was, if I can find it, was Maloney shop windowing Allen and Wright in recent games?
I don't know if that's what he's doing, or if he's giving them. He probably said he'd give everybody a chance, and he's giving everybody a chance. Whether it shot windows them, because certainly Scott Allen's not put himself in the shop window the other night, did he? Dre Wright more so, maybe a wee bit. I think he's just giving everybody the chance he promised them, because he wants to pick. He's going to have to go in January. Well, now the window, now we're ready to go. He'll be wanting to go and say, who do I need? So he's wanted to see these boys for at least an hour each in a game. So he's done that. Then he'll be able to make a spot decision for that, plus what he's seen before.
It's funny. I didn't mean this to be disparaging towards Scott Allen, but like we all know, I think there's a romantic view of Scott Allen, and he is capable of brilliant things with football. Like, he's not like some of the passes, some of the players that he's found with those passes have just been sublime. Like, things that when you watch a game of football, the things that he does that you don't see in front of you, it almost feels like a magic trick. And when you were describing Scott Allen there, and I was thinking, but see, against Aberdeen, he had that one through ball that almost made it just beyond the outstretched leg of the Aberdeen defender. But I think that is too few occasions. Like, there's
only nearly
so few moments. Only nearly got through, and I wonder if the love affair between Hibs fans, Hibs and Scott Allen, maybe just needs to naturally come to a conclusion. I think as well, like with these health issues, I wonder if that's hindering him. Legitimately so. Like, I can't remember exactly the name of the condition. Was it cardiomyopathy? Like, how much is that playing on his mind? How much is that impacting on him physically? Is he able to play at this level of football? And I also wonder whether he's able to play in the demanding system that Sean Maloney seems to want to play.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big decision for somebody to make based on because there'll be a few folk will hold it against them as well. But maybe it's the right time to do it when a new manager comes in and everybody's excited about the new manager. Because if he waits a bit longer, then it'll be held against them along with anything else that somebody doesn't like. Because at the moment, nobody's got much to no like about Maloney, have they? So he's saying the right things. The players are doing the right things. So maybe this is the time to do it when there's not much baggage about it for him.
Yeah, aye. 150k on Hanlon Hill asks, so far today I have adopted a rhinoceros and a polar bear because the TV people made me feel bad. Where the fuck am I going to keep them?
Is this a short bangers question? Keep it for Thursday.
All right, okay, I'll keep that one for Thursday. Has anyone ever had to wait as long as Chris Mueller for a Hibs debut after arriving at the Hibs training centre? He has been getting talked about since, I think it was probably since the start of the pandemic.
There's a danger here, like this boy no living up to the
Imagine
expectations.
he's absolute shit, and Hibs have gone all in on his book, and they've got about 20,000 copies to sell in the shop.
It's still $15.99 on Amazon. I was having a look today, but it's it's one of them. They need to get the expectations lowered a bit. Start telling us he's shite and that, not that good, and he's not earning as much money as you've heard. Because
is he meant to be on big money?
Aye, there's rumours he's on big dough, like proper football player money, no Hibs player money.
Right, okay.
But who knows? Like, if he doesn't come out and score a hat trick in the derby, fuck him, he's shite. Send him back to America.
What other questions we got here?
Look, Dave had 3.
Dave does have 3. So he had, was Maloney shop window in? He had who comes and goes in January, and he also had, can we play this system against the top 3? So what we'll do is we'll deal with the question about who comes and goes in January, and then we'll deal with the system against the top 3. So who do you think's on their way out? This is where my controversial opinion comes in.
All right, you want to start with that then?
No, I want to hear you go first, just in case you feel the same.
Right. All right, okay. Who goes? So I think Wright and Allen will probably go, like they were close to going anyway in January. In the summer. I could see Porteous being sold, and I don't know if Nisbet will be sold yet or not. It depends if what kind of bodies we bring in. Midfield, I think that's probably. Did they ask for a number, or was it just who do you think will go? I think that's about 4. That's about 3 or 4. I think I've said. I think we need 2 centre halves. I think we need an attacking midfielder that can score goals and create more goals, and probably need another striker. That's what we need. At least one striker, depending on if we sell any. I wouldn't be bothered if Porteous went. That's my controversial opinion. I think he creates more. I think he's probably the most overrated player we've got. I'm not saying he isn't good or he's not got potential, but he's probably the most overrated player at the club.
Do you mean overrated by the club, or do you mean by the fans?
Yeah. I think he puts. Watch some of the goals they've let in. He's what I would say is out of position as a centre half. He's not in the middle of the park. There's the middle of. There's some of the headers we've let in. You look at it and go, "What happened there? How's he? Where's Porteous? Why is he over there?" Some of the ridiculous tackles he puts in. The one against Aberdeen the other night wasn't even a tackle. Some of that stuff. He moans and shouts at everybody else, but doesn't take responsibility for his own mistakes. He put Macy under pressure against Aberdeen the other night with some of his pass backs. Kicks the ball directly to play at times. Everybody else gets called out for the distribution, but Porteous' distribution isn't that great. It's all right. I think that's about it. Just irritates me at times. I think he's well overrated. If put it this way, if Hanlon was to make the mistakes he was making, he would get crucified. In fact, Hanlon does get crucified a lot of times for Porteous' mistakes. That's my opinion on him.
Aye. So my opinion was just, this is maybe going to be really, really controversial, but we talked way back at the start when we were talking about the Aberdeen and the Dundee United games about the new, or what seems like the new style of play in terms of formation, like the back 3 being really spread out. In terms of like the speed that we're trying to play at, the the stamina required from the players to maintain that level of performance for 90 minutes, because I think that's come up in Maloney's interviews as well. And I had a look around the team and I thought there's a lot of bodies here that I don't think are up to that. And this could purely be because they haven't had that demand placed in them for the last 2 years under Jack Ross. But it's also part pragmatism, because some of them are kind of reaching, the sort of latter stages of their careers. So I had, and this is champion, show my age here, Champman, Football Manager, cheat code, clear everyone out, as much money as you wanted to go and replace folk. So I started with Macy, and I thought, you mentioned these distribution against Dun United, I'm sure, and said it was a lot quicker. And I thought that in the Aberdeen game that there were opportunities for him to get the ball out quicker. I think that's something that Maloney wants in the last 2 games. I think he wants the ball out quick, and I think he wants players that can get the ball under control quickly and can move it on again. And I don't think Macy is that player. And it seems strange to say that, because I actually thought he had a good game against Aberdeen. I thought he was more commanding in the box, and he also had that really good save that kept us in it towards the end for the header. But again, that needs to be a step up in performance, and it needs to be that once he steps up, he needs to maintain that level of performance. Otherwise, really sorry, but you need to go.
Yeah, I just think I've said before, though, just sort of jump in, that on goalies are in goals generally because they're not as good at football as the boys out the park, right? That's been the same for school, ground all the way up. They're no. So the Dundee United boy booted out the park on the full yesterday. The St Mirren boy done it a couple of weeks before that. Every goalie we play against has got poor distribution. Joe Hart's not great at it, Craig Gordon's not great at it. So to get unless we play a footballer in goals, then I don't know if we'll get somebody that's going to be like amazing goals.
I mean distribution in terms of from his feet, because that's like, see if you got a centre half that's lumping it up towards the striker. Like, I've seen that plenty of times where like it feels like a bit of a wonder ball. Like, what you're asking from in that situation is a lot of things to go right in order to get the striker on the end of it. And I don't even mean just like for a header when you try to play it over the top. Like, it's a high percentage pass, if you like. I'm just talking about like rolling the ball out to someone's feet, or just kind of like almost basketball hook shot over someone's head. I think he's really, really slow in doing that sometimes.
It can be, absolutely, yep.
Especially when you've got a couple of the fullbacks kind of like peeling away from him and like hearing down the line. Just throw it to them. That being said, there's nothing wrong with a keeper having that better perspective on the pitch and having a sort of cool head when everyone else is around you is losing theirs, kind of thing.
Well, it's funny, that was one the other night, wasn't it, the Aberdeen game, because Macy didn't throw it out, and everybody was a wee bit of a murmur in the crowd, and Maloney came out giving it the calm the fuck down sort of stuff. And whether he was saying that to the players that were shouting at him, or whether he was shouting it, sort of telling the fans to calm the fuck down, because that's what it was. It was like, you could tell folk are ready to get on his case next, now that we've kind of seen off Dre Wright and that we're turning our attentions to Macy. But I mean, I'm not like a huge. I just think we've got a goalie that makes saves. He's starting to come take crosses. Let's not criticise him for everything.
Without going into the reasons for the other ones, I had. You can pick up any of the names that you want here: Paul McGinn, Paul Hanlon, Alex Gogic, Dre Wright, Jamie Gullen, Christian Doidge, Kevin Nisbet, Scott Allen, Jamie Murphy. I thought they were all players that could potentially see themselves falling foul of the demands placed upon them.
Nisbet's starting to run about a lot more, isn't he? Or looking, and we've said that before, that it's not that he's not working hard, it's that he can look lazy at times, and he's not looked as lazy, that perception thing. So unless we sell Nisbet, he'll still be here, like, unless we've got to get a decent bid for him. Doidge is interesting though, because he's hardly played. I mean, in the cup final, he was lucky if he got 10 minutes. He was lucky if he got 10 minutes 3 times in the 3 games since Jack Ross is away. He's probably half an hour in the 3 games.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like I say, I appreciate that a lot of these names, like some of them are probably quite surprising based on some of my comments previously. But looking at Doidge recently, I had a wee joke and said, like, he's not a sprinter, is he? But he looks like he's really struggling still from the after effects of that Achilles injury. He's not back up to full fitness, but he was never a sprinter in the first place. He was never quick. And I think our system, like the way that Sean Maloney appears to be trying to play, requires fast, athletic players. Certainly athletic, like certainly players that can move about a bit. Like for all Doidge's work rate, and for all that Doidge has been good for Hibs, I don't know that he necessarily fits in going forward.
No, I know. Is that your controversial one, the Doidge one? Aye.
No, the whole list of them, like Paul Hanlon's in there, and I've been his biggest supporter.
Hanlon can control the ball and pass it, but he's just that one again. Like I wouldn't exclude him for a lot of the Portuguese criticism I gave. When you look at a lot of the crosses that we've lost goals to this season, you look at the two centre halves and you go, why the fuck are they not marking up on the danger men? Why are they way over there? So I would include Porteous and Hanlon in the same box. On a lot of occasions, I just think Hanlon gets criticised for it. Is where I was going with the overrated stuff. So I could see that. But I think we could maybe sell Porteous. We'd maybe get some money from him because he's still youngish. He's not a young laddie anymore, but you know he's still young in terms of a centre half. So we could maybe get some money for him. Hanlon, I think Hanlon will be about till he retires. To be honest, whether he's in the team, I don't know, but I think he'll still be in the squad. You know, maybe replace McGregor on the bench.
Yeah, by the way, wouldn't it be a terrible move? Like to have
you need continuity. You need continuity and experience and people that know about the club and all that, and that's where Stevenson and Hanlon will probably see their career going over a while. I don't think Hanlon's finished yet. Like, don't get me wrong, but I would still rather have two starting centre halves coming in January.
Yeah. Other questions to come in. I think we covered Dave's. So here's the question about fashion that I mentioned earlier on, and you're the fashionable guy with the Hibs Christmas jumper.
Yep.
Is Sean Maloney's stylish jacket waterproof, or did he, like a bairn, wanted to put a sensible coat over his new clubber, ruin it yesterday in the rain?
So I didn't notice yesterday. I think it was the Aberdeen game. So he was wearing a suit, innit? But then at the Aberdeen game, I think he came out and put another jacket on top of it.
Aye, definitely.
So it's like at least water resistant.
Aye.
To keep the suit in check, because I imagine it'll be a good suit. He'll spent a few bob. He made a bit of money over his career, Maloney.
I don't know if do you think he would have spent money on it, or do you think that Hibs suit partner Mark Darcy would have dressed him?
I would have thought he would to start with. That's a good question. It's not got a badge on it or nothing, though, is it?
I don't know. Do the Hibs suits have badges? Surely no. Maybe it'll be like a wee embroidered thing on the label. I don't know. That's a really good question.
He's going to have been used to wearing good quality stuff. He's not going to wear cheap shite. Even I'm not saying Mark Darcy is. I'm saying that he would be saying to them, "Give me one of your good gins."
Aye, give me top rack.
Aye. Yeah, dear you, mate. I'm Sean Maloney. Become a millionaire.
I can't reach the top rack, so you're going to have to get one of those sports
step ladders. I can't go up that with a crash helmet, pal. It's I think it's water resistant, his coat. But yesterday we need full waterproof because it was pissing down.
Aye, it was wet look Sean Maloney yesterday.
He get hair he needs to get Martin Boyle's hair partner involved. I think his hair's thinning out up there as well.
I saw a tweet earlier. You'll not have seen this because you're on Twitter, but it was a framing company, and it said that they'd sent some artificial turf to Martin Boyle. And I thought, where the fuck is this tweet going? And it was just like for a wee display case for his hat trick again, for the ball for his hat trick against Rangers. The last question. I don't know. I wonder if we should maybe save this for short bangers. It's for Mike Hibs Trucker 69. Is it acceptable for me to be delivering Easter eggs to the stores in fucking December?
Well, it's the way it is. It's the way the world. It's last Christmas Eve. This is a short banger thing, but last Christmas Eve, not the other day, the year before, I went into the wee co-op up the road at 5 o'clock for a pint of milk or something, and they were genuinely emptying the shelves, all the Christmas stuff, and putting cream eggs out Christmas Eve because they were just about to close an hour later. So that's how early it starts. So,
did you get any? You pick up a
cream eggs? No, I was not gonna have fucking chocolate at Christmas in this house like this. That'll last us till about February anyway, at least. So, no.
Well, that's all the questions. So, I think we've managed to.
We've probably bored everybody long enough. Yeah, that's probably an hour anyway, at least.
Aye. Don't know. I tried to move the mouse a bit earlier to see if there was a timer. and there's no timer. And I think I managed to do 2 things tonight. One of them was hit record, which I promised Matty was the most difficult task I had to do. And the second one, I think we managed to get away without using any dodgy language.
Did we?
I don't know that there was any swear words there.
No, I've definitely swore like bounty. I've maybe not used that word the other week I used, but I've definitely swore. So
Apparently, if you can lip read. I never listened to it back.
that was all right.
All right. I guess we'll call it quits there. I wish I could say that we'll definitely be back on Thursday for short bangers, but it might be Matty dependent. He's still got a wee bit of a sore throat, but hopefully he's on the road to some sort of recovery now, if not out of isolation. Until next time.
County line I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.